Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. First of all, if you're new here, I post new book reviews almost every single day, so if you are looking for some reading inspiration or if you enjoy following book reviews, then feel free to stick around. Now let's talk about what we are discussing today. So today is not a book review. The weather has shifted. Fall arrived on schedule at like 8:30 p.m. on last Wednesday. Fall arrived and the temperature plummeted and it became rainy, and now we're in the rainy, gray fall season of the year. Now, while the weather may be turning grosser or people don't like this kind of weather, I think this is great for reading. I feel like I'm inspired to stay inside, make a cup of tea, sit in my little chair by the window, and watch it be rainy and cold outside while I read books inside. I feel like I read a lot more in the fall and winter, when in the spring and summer I tend to go a lot more outside. So, fitting the weather, I took a little run to my local library to get some library books. So let's talk about what I have in my latest library haul and what I'm going to be reading this October. I do have some books that I do not have in this video that I do have checked out. Those are books that I read or checked out to read previous to me going to Europe, and I didn't get to them, so I needed to check them out and finish them so I can review them now, basically. So there are some things that you're going to see reviews for, books that you're going to see reviews for, or if you saw me have a book in a previous haul that you wanted me to review and I haven't done it, it's possible that that's still sitting on my to-read shelf and I do have it out. But these are new books that I wanted to check out and read. So let's talk about the first two, because this is science fiction. So the first one is the Mammoth Book of New World Science Fiction, short novels of the 1960s, and I'm specifically going to read Hawk Among Sparrows by Dean McLaughlin in here. This is part of my Hugo Award reading challenge, so I'm going to be reading that one. Also in the same vein, I have The Best of Lee Brackett. So Lee Brackett surprised me. I had actually not heard of her before getting this book out of the library, and this is also for my Hugo reading challenge, sort of. But she seems to be kind of a pioneer or a massive contributor in the space opera genre, and I'm surprised at how much work she's done and how much of an influence she's had in the sci-fi genre overall, and how I didn't even recognize her name. Of course, I'm doing this reading challenge to educate myself, so that's the purpose, to learn new things, but I'm excited to read her work and see if I like it. The one that I've selected from here is actually, I believe, a retro Hugo, so these are ones that are awarded retroactively, and it's The Jewel of Boz. Either way, I might read some more short stories from here because this is a collection of short stories edited by Edmund Hamilton, who I believe is also her husband. So I'm excited to read this one and see what these are about. Next up, we'll do all my fiction ones together. Next up is Murder is a Piece of Cake by Valerie Burns, a Baker Street mystery. So I actually listened to the audiobook of the first book in this cozy mystery series and I loved it. I liked the narrator, so switching to a print format is going to be interesting. I'm going to see if I like the cozy mystery equally as well when it's in the print format, or if it was really the audiobook narrator, because in my opinion that was an excellent cozy mystery, and I do have the review for the other book in this series, which I'm drawing a blank on, but I will be sure to link it. So if you want to listen to my review of that, you can listen to that. That was an audiobook. This is print. I'm going to give it a read. This was on the new shelf, so it probably was a recently published book, and I'm excited to see how the series unfolds. Oh, the first one was 2-part sugar, 1-part murder. It's right here on the inside cover. I should have known. Now let's get into my non-fiction. The first one I'm just curious about. So the first one I have is Wicked Women of Detroit by Tobin T. Buch, B-U-H-K. I am intrigued by what they're considering wicked women. I do not know if this is just murderers or people who were criminals or women who did really reprehensible stuff or just people who were slightly scandalous. I know there's a lot of books in this series, so they have like Wicked Women of, I don't know, Cincinnati or Ohio. So you can pick whatever region of the United States you would like. I just decided to pick Detroit because it's one of the areas I was more familiar with. So I decided to check it out and give it a read. Not sure what to expect, and really it was just the title that pulled me in on this one, but it's not too long and I'm interested in learning more about these Wicked Women of Detroit. And if this sounds interesting to you and you live in the United States, maybe check to see if there's a Wicked Woman of wherever's close to you, if that's more interesting to you than something in Detroit. And for those of you, I assume most people, even if you don't live in the United States, you know where Detroit is, but it's a city on the border of Canada. It borders the town of Windsor, but it's kind of close-ish to Toronto, a couple hours away, so close to us who live in the Midwest. Next up is a math book. I love math. It's a numberful world, how math is hiding everywhere, from the crown of a tree to the sound of a sine wave by Eddie Wu. I am interested in reading this book. This seems more like a pop science, pop mathematics, written for the lay audience, but that's sometimes very interesting and fun, and I'm excited to see what this book is all about. So if you like mathematics, stay tuned for this one. Next up is a book I didn't know I was going to get, but when I saw it, I knew I had to get it. Hi by Erica Fatland, A Journey Across the Himalaya through Pakistan, India, Bhutan, Nepal, and China. So I recognized, when this was on the shelf, I recognized the author's name, Erica Fatland, so I pulled it up and I flipped to the back and I saw her headshot and I said, oh yes, I've read something by her before. Although if I had taken a few minutes, I would have noticed that it was also up at the top above her name. Author of Sovietistan and The Border. So I haven't read The Border, but I did read Sovietistan. I read it actually during the pandemic. I believe the library was doing the door pickup where I had to place my holds, and then I would drive up to the library and then I would call them and they would come to the door with my collection. So when things were just really different. I read Sovietistan, and she travels through a lot of former Soviet states and in Central Asia, and it was really, really interesting, and I loved it. I loved her writing style, and I remember even though the book was a little longer, I want to say 500, maybe 700 pages, I blew through it. Now, I don't know if that was the pandemic and boredom or if it was actually really, really good. I think it was actually really, really good. So I'm excited to read this one. Again, it's not entirely short, but I'm interested in hearing about her experiences traveling through these countries, and I want to know what this is like. So this is a little bit more of a commitment and one that I wasn't quite expecting to check out, but I'm sure I'll enjoy it and I'll have a review on this when I finish it. Next up is a book that I'm not sure what to expect from. This is Mother Tongue, The Surprising History of Women's Words by Jenny Nuttall. I'm not sure what this entails. I'm not sure what women's words entails. I'm not sure if it's language regarding, I don't know, giving birth or female anatomy. Not entirely sure what to expect. I think, if I remember correctly, there was a court in the world, I want to say a Chinese court, where women use their own language to communicate with one another. I wonder if that's going to be addressed in here. Maybe there's more places in the world where women have developed their own language to do their own machinations behind the scenes. No clue what to expect here. And maybe I could be completely wrong. I'm entirely speculating, but I'm excited to read this book and find out. I feel like that disappearing languages book that I read recently, or that dying languages book, the book on dying languages and linguistic loss that I read recently, has kind of inspired me to look more in that section of the library, and that's where I found this. So we'll see how I feel about this one. Next up is, it was in the nonfiction section, but it's folklore and mythology, so it kind of straddles that fiction, nonfiction. And this is Japanese yokai. I'm going to look up how to say this correctly when I do the review of it, but I'm saying yokai for now, and other supernatural beings, authentic paintings, and prints of 100 ghosts, demons, monsters, and magicians. So I'm excited to learn more about the folk tales, mythologies, and the creatures that feature therein. And I just thought that the cover, and when I flipped through it, the drawings seemed really, really interesting, or the prints that are featured seem really interesting. So I'm excited to read this and learn more about Japanese yokai and other supernatural beings. So if anything here sounds interesting to you, then stay tuned. The final one I got out just because of the title, and you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we all do. Judging a book by its cover is a very natural thing. This time I judged a book by its title, and I don't know what to expect or what I'm getting into. Michigan Barns, etc. Rural Buildings of the Great Lakes State by Jerry R. Davis. So for those of you not familiar with United States geography, Michigan is a state in the Midwest. It borders Canada, and it's made up of 2 peninsulas. It's part of it's called the Great Lakes State because the Great Lakes are bordering it as well. All but one of them border the state of Michigan, and it's in this Great Lakes region of the United States as well. I was intrigued by Michigan Barns, etc. I'm not sure what falls into etc. When I say etc., I use it like this. That person has a lot of pets: cats, dogs, fish, parrots, etc. So things that are classed together. This is Michigan Barns, etc. I don't really know what falls into etc. with Michigan Barns. Is that like sheds, outhouses, gazebos, patios? I had no idea. So I decided to check it out and find out what the author considered the etc. part of Michigan Barns. It does say rural buildings, which kind of gives a clue, but I'm really just curious about this etc. part, and I checked it out. I think it's like pencil drawings. So it kind of is an art style book, and I'm interested in that aspect too, but I'm mostly interested in the title and figuring out what the etc. portion is. So if you are looking to follow some of my book reviews coming up, we have a wide variety of topics, genres, styles to pick from. I do book reviews on both fiction and nonfiction. So we have two that are going to be in the science fiction or fantasy category. We have a cozy mystery for those of you who are into cozy mysteries. In the kind of genre between fiction and nonfiction, we have a book on mythology, Japanese mythology. And then in the nonfiction, we have an art book that features pencil drawings of Michigan Barns, etc. The etc. part is to be explained. We have the book High, which is a travel book by Erica Fatland, who I have read before and enjoyed. We have a book on mathematics. We have a local history book from also the Great Lakes region, the city of Detroit. And we have a book on language regarding women's words, which we will find out. So I really have a wide variety. So if any of these sound interesting, then stay tuned, subscribe, and follow to make sure that you stay up to date on all my book reviews. If you have any thoughts or have read any of the books that I have here today, please let me know in the comments below. I also love suggestions. I love getting suggestions on what to read next. So if you have suggestions, please put it in the comments below, and I do my best to get a copy of the book that you suggest to review. I do really enjoy that, so put those below and I will read them and respond. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest